Hello, Kimberly Todd. Welcome to 106 Life Factors. I'm so happy you're here. You're ailing from Jamaica. Where in Jamaica are you?
Thank you so much. I feel honored for being here. I am from the beautiful parish of St. Anne and a small town called Brownstown.
Correct. And so Brownstown is a famous town in the parish that is called the Garden State. Can you tell us about Brownstown?
Okay, so Brownstown has a wonderful market. That's the first thing. And two, we have the best grand market. So I'm not sure if you know about grand market,
I do.
but persons from all over in Christmas, they come to enjoy our grand market each year.
Oh, yes. And so, just like with I see some of the videos, where people post about Grand Market, and do they have specific activities for the kids? Is it that the town put it on, or just the vendors coming out?
Most activities are abstract, so you have the selling, the buying of toys, but
Right.
the music, we are home to Bass Odyssey. And so when we vibe and enjoy ourselves, it's just so beautiful. It's grand. I don't know.
Definitely. And Saint Anne have some also a couple waterfalls. How many are?
Listen to me. We have rivers, we have beautiful beaches. I'm a lover of the river. So I'll tell
Right.
you, we have Matterfed, we have Spanish Bridge, bordering a little to St. Mary. That's
Right.
fine, that's fine. But we have quite a few rivers.
And the Spanish Bridge has been popular for years, but has become even more popular, especially in the last, maybe, well, for me, I think I understand it for the last 5 years or so.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now, Kimberly, you are a teacher in Jamaica. You're employed by the Ministry of Education. Tell us about your journey becoming a teacher.
Wow. So from I was very small, I wanted to be a lot of things. I really enjoyed teaching my siblings. There was something about knowing and wanting to share that knowledge that I loved. Growing up, I really wanted to be a lawyer. I had ambitions to be the prime minister. I wanted to be a flight attendant, and I went to Westwood High School in Trelawney, and I left with eight grade one sixes and one two. I wanted to be a lawyer. Now, when I left, I was challenged with finances. And
Okay.
so, if you know anything about law school, very expensive.
Of course.
And my dream to be a lawyer was shattered. And so I started exploring other avenues. So I remember one day I went to church in this long sleeve shirt and I was like, ooh, I would make a nice flight attendant. I want to travel the world.
Okay.
And then I wanted to be a nurse. I was just all over the place. I applied for nursing school. I applied for flight attendant school. There was one in Montego Bay. So I was all over the place. And by this time, an entire year had passed. So I had a gap year. I am a Christian, so one youth meeting afterwards, my priest, Garfield Campbell, he sat me down on the outside of church on a wall, and we were just talking, and he was saying, what are you doing, Kim? It's been 1 year, you're extremely smart, because persons would think that though I have the gap year, you're idle.
Right.
Like, no, I'm not so sure. And he's like, do you like mathematics? And I'm like, if I like mathematics, I love mathematics. It has been my passion from ever since.
Hmm.
He said, would you teach it? And I'm like, you know, teach?
Right.
I never saw myself in the classroom like that. I taught before, I did VBS at church, but to say teach, that one conversation, he said, Church Teachers College, they're offering scholarships to do teaching. I'm like, and then he asked me what grade I had in math, and I was like, I had
Hmm.
a grade one. He's like, okay, think about it. And I went abroad to visit my aunt, and during that time, I said, okay, let me apply. I applied, and because I'm Anglican, I got a scholarship from my church and from the ministry through
Great.
Church Teachers College to do the math. And so a regular undergraduate degree is 4 years. I did mine in 3 years. Because of the program, we did summers. So we could, there were there was a shortage of teachers, so they accelerated the program. So we did it. I didn't have any free time. For 3 years straight, it was just school, 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 school. And then that is how I became a teacher. That one conversation with my priest.
And you need that. The priest as a mentor in a sense, see your potential, and we need so much more of that,
Yeah.
especially in those rural communities where, skills can be overlooked. So that's a great story. And so you finish the accelerated teachers program in mathematics, and now you're placed. Is it that you choose the school or the ministry choose a school for you?
I chose the school.
Okay.
So I went to Westwood and I have great passion for Westwood. I loved Westwood and I love all the lessons I learned there. So
Hmm.
when I was applying, I did apply to other schools.
Hmm.
At the time, when I got the call from Westwood, I was like, they were the first ones to call me actually. And I
Hmm.
went and I did the interview and I saw, of course, my past principal, vice principal, and I did the interview perhaps the Friday, and by the next week they called me, and I said yes, and I said yes. The other schools called me, but I'm like no. Since I already got the yes from my school, I'm going to go back there.
Okay. And Westwood, I know Westwood is said to be a very exceptional school. Well, that's what the past alumni is what state. But to me, just a symbolism, just the conservative approach to education as well that is appreciated. And they do well in the schools challenge
Yes,
area
yes,
as well, right?
yes, they
Do they
do.
perform? I don't know if it's a sing along, but do they perform in the
Oh, all together things.
all
Yes,
together?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
cool. So yes, and I just love everything about the uniform and just the atmosphere of the school. So you're teaching mathematics at Westwood, and how many years now have you been there?
I have been there 6 years.
Well, that's a long time. So, and for Westwood to choose you, you have to be on top of your game, I'm sure. And so, what is your
Wi-Fi. Oh.
yes, what grade do you teach at the moment at Westwood?
So I teach grade 7 to 11. I know this coming year I'm going to be teaching sixth form.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Yes.
so the students come to you or you go to the students. Is it where the students move from classroom to classroom?
Oh no, we go to them. Only grade 10 and 11. They are mixed classes, so they have to go to a different room.
What do you find? Because there was I can't recall if it's a study that was actually done by some of these NGOs, or is it just a writer's blog, I believe, that's saying that the education system in Jamaica, especially as it relates to maths and English, that there's a deficit. Do you agree with that in terms of the
Yes,
outcome?
I do.
Okay, tell us what are the
I
challenges?
So the first thing, ministry will tell us that we're supposed to differentiate our lessons because we have different learning styles, we have different learning needs, and that's all true. We
Hmm.
do have them. However, one, we lack resources. So you want us to differentiate, and that's fine, but we
Hmm.
lack resources.
And what are the
Two,
resources?
go again?
What resources are you lacking?
What is one of the biggest, especially because we're in the 21st century, everything is global technology.
Okay.
Technology, different equipment. So the science, the math, we have different needs and they're not being catered to. Long gone the days you just need markers and a whiteboard. And
Right.
that's
Okay.
long gone are those days. So we're lacking resources. When it comes on to different learning styles and different learning needs, though they have different learning styles, different learning needs, we have one standard test.
Ah, okay.
So within the classroom, we're differentiating, but then at the end of the day, there's no differentiation for the standard testing.
Is it that they expected that the differentiation in terms of the teaching would lead
Would
to
bring everybody to the same?
yes.
Yes. I think they do, but it's a little bit unrealistic.
Okay.
I believe and I think this is one way to fix the educational system. I do
Mhm.
believe that some persons can do the high school, and I say high school, in 3 years. Some can do it in 5 years, and some may need to do it in seven. And when I say seven, I'm not talking sixth form. I'm
Mhm.
talking the same content over a different period of time. So when you look at the spectrum, you have persons who are in the middle,
Mhm.
persons to the far end to the right, far end to the left. When you have children who are extremely to the right, and I'm going to put the right as being academically brilliant.
Mhm.
And then you have persons at the extreme end to the left where they need more time. The ministry has this mantra, every child can learn, every child must learn.
Mhm.
Yes, that is true. But it needs a little bit more addition. Learn at what speed, at what time, learn what. And so I may need 2 classes to get the concept, you may need 4. Somebody may need 8. Now, if we're all going to be in the same class, it's the same time, and of course, the constraints that are there as well. They'll say, yes, you can slow down and you can ensure that everybody's with you, but you can't slow down for too long because then you have a syllabus to complete
And
within a particular time frame.
and this
So,
may affect those students who are on the far right, who
and then 2, it poses many other challenges. So the ones who get it very quickly, if you are not very well with planning differentiation, where you give them more challenging questions,
Mhm.
they'll be bored in class. And the boredom creates mischief because then they don't have anything to do. So they're talking excessively there. So you have to plan for that.
What's a
And
student?
2,
Go.
they can become frustrated because
Yes.
because you give them something else and they're done with it. You give them something else and they're done with it. And
Mhm.
you're still trying to bring the others up to par. And bringing those persons up to par now, what will happen? They're frustrated. The ones at the far end to the right are frustrated all the time. And then they also may feel as if you're giving those ones more attention.
Mhm.
Though equity is a must.
Right.
Equity is a must. So you will know who to give more attention to. So there are so many challenges.
It is a lot. And if you just by listening to what you're saying, your head spin, just trying to make sense of how you, as the teacher, now navigate all of those challenges, the different needs
Yes, yes,
you say, and trying to make sure that you don't lose the ones that are simply probably a lot easy to digest the information
yes,
and so
yes.
on. Are you concerned then that what's a student teacher ratio in the classroom, by the way? Oh, that's another
That's a
challenge.
problem too. So, and I'm talking primary.
Mm,
Okay, so I'm saying when you talk about the primary and the high schools that are not private, so the public schools, the ratio 1 teacher to 40 students.
oh, wow.
Rarely you have 30 odd students in a class. Yes. This year, the year before, I for grade sevens, 1 to 44, 1 to 46. There was a year I had 50 students in grade 7.
And is the classroom big enough or is it
And
just
when
crowded?
it climbs,
Is it crowded?
some classes are big enough.
Okay.
Some classes are big enough to hold them. Some classes are big enough to hold them. I'll say that. Because I know that the schools will work. Because the higher you go in grade, so like grade 8, you will have a 1 to 38. So that's
Mhm.
less. Grade 9 is a 1 to 39. That's less.
Mhm.
Grade 10, because I know it will be a bit smaller. So that's 1 to 33, 1 to 35. And the same thing for grade 11s. But th- that's one. That ratio you will see
Wow.
1 to 40. And that is for a school that has 800 and odd students. My school, we have schools that have 1,500 students.
Is
And
it a
some that,
shift
they have to
system?
do it on shifts.
That's what I was about to ask you. Do you have a shift school?
If my school is a shift school,
Is Westwood's on a
no,
shift? So
no.
they're there from say 8 o'clock until what time?
From 7:40 to 3:40.
Okay, so it's just a regular full day.
Full day, yes, miss.
Okay, so in terms of these, At some point throughout the year, I mean, Favor Williams was the education minister. She's no longer, correct? Did she move
Yeah,
on?
she's no longer the minister.
Who is the new minister, by the way? No, you
Why miss? I don't know. I know how she looks. I don't know her
okay.
name, but I know how she
Okay. We
looks.
have to look it up. We haven't checked. Yeah, I know. Since they changed, we haven't checked. So, do you, but that means suggesting then that they're not checking with teachers then. You're not meeting with it with the minister during the summer, even having some meetings, conferences with the minister to kind of get through some of these challenges. I mean, talk about them and come up with solutions.
I I well, they perhaps have meetings.
You're not
I'm not
invited
there.
at the teacher level.
No, I know that there was a meeting the other day when we went. They did it regionally.
Hmm.
And so we went and we stood. They were talking about this new trend principle that they had going, and to sensitize us, they all invited
What's
the
the new
teachers.
trend? Do you remember what it is?
Transforming, transforming education. What is the N again? It's transforming education. I
Put it
don't know,
this way.
miss.
I know Jamaica is very good at coming up with fancy ideas, but
It's
then
transforming education through national development.
what does that mean? But I'm not gonna challenge. I'm not gonna force you to talk about that. All right. Now let's talk about so the one teacher to about 40 students or so. Um, if you have to look at based on your experiences over the 5, 6 years, what percentage of your students are actually getting math?
All right, generally speaking, let me just analyze this year that went. Say I taught over 200 students. At my school, we could be looking at, say, 70% in
Okay,
at my school. But my school is one of the traditional schools, so we receive the students who are at the far end to the
right.
right of the
Yes,
spectrum.
yes. West would tend to get some of
So you
those.
can't use my, no, you can't really use my percentage, but I can say to you, last year, the national pass rate for mathematics in the CXC
Hmm.
was 33%.
Oh, that's very low.
Very, very low. So though last year we recorded a pass rate of 86% at Westwood High School,
Hmm.
that's good. 86% of who we sent up,
Exactly,
that's
exactly.
good. But nationally, the
Mhm.
pass rate was 33. There was a year, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, where it went up. I think it went up about 4%, and we were all jolly about it. But that was because for the CXC, they didn't sit paper two. I think they sat it, but the paper was compromised, so they omitted the paper.
Oh, so
So
that
they only did paper one, which is just multiple choice. So the likelihood would be greater. So there was a little increase, but I wouldn't even call it much to celebrate about
there's
because they
problem
didn't
with
do
the
the
numbers.
rigorous paper. But it's very low. So nationally, it is um 33, 34, 35, 36, 37. I've never seen where it has gone past that.
Westwood, I don't want to assume. Is it a co-ed school?
No, it's an all-girl school.
All girls school. Okay, so it's difficult to even ask about the performance in terms of gender, right?
Yes, yes, because I'm
Okay,
only with the
right.
girls.
Okay, but with that though, maybe you've heard of some of the all boys school. Is there any comparison? Have you ever considered the numbers there or their performance in math, for example?
I'm looking at a York Castle in Brownstown that has both girls and boys.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, they're on the traditional side
Yeah.
too.
Okay.
Their passes aren't bad at all. They'll be coming in with a 70 from a 70 to an 80%, that kind of a region, same way. But once again, they are traditional. So the boys who are on that side of the spectrum,
Mm-hmm.
the the right side,
The right
would
side.
go there. So it is hard to
Mm-hmm.
compare it because it's a traditional school.
In terms of the schools, for example, Westwood, York Castle, for those type of one gender type school. Is religion, do you think religion plays a role in still in the setting? Is it heavily religious in that setting?
Yes, we are a Christian country.
Of
Um,
course.
of course, we're a Christian country. And I would say, I could almost say all the schools,
Hmm.
whether primary, high school, traditional, non-traditional,
Hmm.
our God is very much present.
So
So,
we still
like
have
at
the
Westwood High
morning.
School, we have devotions every,
Hmm. Go ahead.
so
Hmm.
we have to pray at our meal times. We have devotions in the morning. And my school, Westwood High School, is a boarding institution. So the
Hmm.
girls, they have to go to church on a Sunday.
Okay. And the church is not necessarily attached to the school per se, but
Yes, the churches are attached. So, for example,
hmm.
St. Hilda's in
Hmm.
Bromston as well, all girls school. They're Anglican, they're an Anglican school, so they go to the Anglican church.
Hmm.
Westwood is founded by four churches, so they'll rotate the churches that they go to.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
And what's the denomination for the church for Westwood?
Okay, so Anglican, Baptist, um, Anglican Baptist.
It's not Catholic, is it?
No, miss, I don't think it's Catholic.
That's
Um,
okay. Think about it.
yes, miss.
Because
Because
it's
I know they're Anglican because I'm Anglican. I know they're Baptist because they've been to the Baptist church. It's near. I don't remember the other two, miss.
so in terms of the okay, so all girls schools, someone say maybe that's a lot easier to teach the girls. Was that a fair statement or is just a stereotypical statement?
Go again, miss?
Is it easier to teach girls than it is from your experience?
No, I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
Because I've taught boys at summer camp, I've
Mhm.
taught them at VBS, I volunteer at different camps where I have to teach.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't say that. I've taught for an online academy as well at boys. I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
In person, the boys are just as any mischief you get from the girls, you get it from the boys. And I think I would even say that if I'm to say the girls are perhaps a little bit more difficult to teach because then it's woman to woman.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
there's a little sass here and there, but
What's the level of respect like among your students towards you and then towards each other? What's the level of respect?
so once again, I can only speak for Western High
Yeah,
School.
for
We
West.
are a school of great discipline.
Okay.
So, teacher-student relationship, we problems, perhaps 2%. 2%. So
Okay.
they are there, they are there, but we don't have it so badly as some of the schools. The girls are taught, how to answer teacher, how to speak to teacher, because many of them, they don't know because of their surroundings, environments,
Hmm.
and they are taught how to speak, how to answer, how to relate. When you have a problem, what is the right way to go about things?
Hmm.
Analyzing what did you do wrong in a particular situation. You were right with what you said, but how you said it, you were wrong, that kind of a thing. Students versus student, I'll say children will be children. You will have the girls relating to each other. You still have you have a little bullying here, but we don't have it wide scale.
Hmm. Okay. And in terms of the relationship that you have with your colleagues, how do you help out each other in those settings, knowing that you're short on resources, the challenges in the classroom, and just trying to navigate, especially when, it's not just academics, but girls, they come with all their personal challenges as well from home because you're on campus, they're boarding, and so you have to help them navigate those things. How do you do that with your colleagues?
Well, the first thing I'll say, once again, experience. And I'll just brag a little bit. I taught a little bit at St. Hilda's Diocesan High School, and I remember being in the staff room, and the atmosphere was so tense. Persons, it's like I come to teach, you come to teach, I mind my own business, you mind your own business, that kind of a thing.
Mhm.
And then I don't know if it's because one, I know a few of the teachers because they taught to me, and I don't know if that's the case, but my environment is very welcoming. I go to work and I enjoy. work. I enjoy the students and I enjoy the teachers. The staff room filled with fun, filled with laughter. We relate to each other really nice. As it relates to support, I would say the Westwood High School staff is very supportive.
And I must encourage anyone watching this to go take a look at your Instagram because it is true. It just seems so much like fun. Some of the videos that you do post and the interactions with the students. I especially like this. There's this one video that you said, well, let's find the square root of something. And you,
Yes.
and you
Yes. So
said just put
I
in
am I
the
am up to the foolishness and they are also up to the foolishness.
But
And they've been
we know that behind all of that, there has to be, some well-grounded approach in order for you to kind of have that kind of, kind of dynamics with them and for it to
yes,
work,
yes, Miss.
right?
Yes, of course, Miss. I think one of the things with the staff, we talk about things. Of course, it's okay to feel hurt because we're human beings, you're hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But we speak about things. And when things happen with the students as well, not that we're speaking about the students to say that we're being malicious towards them, but you
Mm-hmm.
want a better understanding, you want a different perspective. You spoke to a student, this was the reaction. Am I wrong? What's the case? And persons are not afraid to tell you the truth and they're not mean about it.
Okay. What about when the parents visit? Do you have parents attending at some point throughout the year?
So we do have the parents for PTA. So we have PTA, say three times for the term, 3, 4 times for the term.
Mm-hmm.
We do have them for report day. And there are a few events that keep throughout the year that they are invited for, like sports day and so forth. The parents, they come with their concerns. One, I'll say that sometimes the students where we want to see their parents, so we have different systems. So the guidance counselor will reach out, the school itself will reach out to parents,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a little bit difficult, especially when we know that there are some things that must be dealt with. So persons are coming to school very late and it's consistent. Persons are absent and it's consistent with no note. Because at my school, there are certain measures that are there. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're absent for one day, that's fine. 2 days, once you're absent for the one day, you have to come with a letter signed by your parent.
Ah,
1 day.
okay.
So, but when you get constant being absent, we call in the parents. We have what is called a referral form, and we fill it out because sometimes too, as teachers, it's a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
the guidance counselors they will do the calling, they'll do the checks. So when we want some of the parents, we can't find them, or they're abroad. There's so many things, and then we have to deal with grandma and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
They come with their concerns when they are there. The PTA, they're concerned about this, they're concerned about that. And most times they are assured and they are told the matters are dealt with. And I love the fact, though, that the parents are behind the students.
Good.
I'll say, though, that sometimes the ones that we have difficulty with, we're not seeing their parents. So most times it's the ones that we don't have much problem with.
Okay.
Those are the ones we're always seeing, which is kind of problematic.
Okay. And when you say, for example, in terms of absence, is it that the student would probably leave for the weekend to go home to visit parents and then not show up, or they still be
Oh,
in the
no,
dorm?
not.
They're in the dorm, but they simply don't show up for class.
No, no, boarders can't leave like that, miss.
Oh, okay.
So it's not everybody who boards. It's a day girl and boarder situation, meaning, say, 30% of the population boards, so they stay on campus, and then the other 70% they traverse.
Oh, okay.
Now, the ones who board, trust me, miss, you have so many measures in place, you can't just disappear.
Okay, I see.
You
Okay.
can't just disappear because one, you have to get approval. Your parent has to get approval from the office. Then
Mm-hmm.
when you get that slip, the house mother has to see that slip. There's no when you're leaving, the security guard has to see.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a few measures in place that, eliminate certain things, which I do appreciate. For
Yeah.
the day girls, though, you're to come to school and then you're not. If you're absent for one day, you must send, and it must be signed by your parent or guardian. If we feel that this is forged, we're going to be calling because we have all that information, that kind of a thing. you're absent because you went to the doctor. We need a note from the doctor.
Hmm. So
So
you have to
yes,
get it covered.
yeah, at my school.
How does one make the decision to board? Is it based on what the school decide or the parents decide? Or is it
On what the
proximity?
parent decides, because some persons, so this is the school is in Trelawney.
Hmm.
Some persons are coming from Westmoreland,
Okay.
Kingston, all over. So in terms of traversing, that would be difficult.
Hmm.
And then two, you have some persons who live right near the school, but
Hmm.
mommy or daddy decides that, hey, I feel that she perhaps would be more focused if she's in boarding, that kind of a thing. So it's up to the parents. Plus two, because there is a maximum amount of students we can take,
Hmm.
preferences are given to certain persons. Meaning, if you live right at the hill and somebody is coming from Kingston, the one from Kingston, especially if she passed for the school, would
Hmm.
get it. Of course, if there are spaces left, then of course,
Hmm. I'm always curious as to the CXC test result placements. As you said, Westwood is on top of the list in terms of how well students do. So when you do get past, so say for example, a student is at a primary school in Kingston and does pass their exam at a very good rate and end up at Westwood, you'd think that they try to, move their results to a school closer. But no, they try to get to Westwood because Westwood, for example, is said to be a better school or one of the better schools. Yes?
with the placing, we are given choices.
Okay.
So when you are going to do the grade six exit exam, the PEP, you are given now, in my time it was five, now you're given seven schools. So the parents and the children, they discuss the schools they want to go to.
Hmm.
So I live in Kingston and I heard about Westwood and I want to go to Westwood. But there's a school right there and it's very good the same way there's one there. And then you have choices. And then there is a ranking based on your choices, based on the grades. So it's not like the ministry says you have to go there. What will happen though, if say you have seven choices
Hmm.
and the seven you have chosen, the grades are not matching up from one, two, three, all the way down to seven, the
Hmm.
ministry may place you at a school that they
Okay.
see fit.
So I did look up the Minister of Education. I didn't learn her name. Dana Morris Dixon.
Oh, Miss I, Dana Morris Dixon, she has, I think, gray
Curly.
hair.
Yes, curly hair.
I
All
don't
right,
know if
so
it's,
she's a new education. Well, new in the sense of she's been there the last 2 years. We're so accustomed to seeing Fayetteville uh,
yes, Miss
on
Favor William.
right. So, but she's now the new, since May 2023, they're named Dana Morris Dixon. All right.
Okay.
And so one of the statement that you made on your posting on Instagram, you're saying sometimes the problem is not so much the student, it's the parents, bad parenting. Do you want to elaborate on that? Uh, and it's not so much, I'm thinking it's not so much about Westwood per se, but just
In
across
general.
in general. What does bad parenting look like? As it really, what give you an example of what you may have come across?
All right. And this is in no way to fix the problem, we have to identify the problem. And I
Right.
say the school takes a percentage, the home takes a percentage.
Yes.
The society does as well. We have some parents, and I have a son, so I know.
Hmm.
When you go to the PTA, the orientation, you see so many parents, like so many parents, and then some of them, majority, you'll never see them again.
Hmm.
And for me, that cannot happen because you must know Parent Teachers Association, PTA, is important because then that is where your voice comes in as a parent. Children are misbehaving, you're reaching out to the parents, you get them. Children are underperforming because then now you want to do some strategies, you want to try some things, but you cannot without parental consent,
Right.
without speaking to the parents. They have to be involved.
Hmm.
And so you're reaching out to them, you get them. It's an I don't care. It's a your problem. You have them, you fix them.
Wow.
I don't have time for that
Hmm.
in a nutshell. You also have some parents, what is happening in their environment doesn't allow the child to be his or her best self. So, for example, we're giving children homework and they come, Miss, I couldn't do the homework. Why not? One, by the time they're finished doing oh so many other things, they don't have any time. You can't, it's almost as if because this is not equity. You can't kill a student for that.
Mm-hmm.
Miss, I didn't do the project because I didn't have the resources.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we don't know, but then that is where the conversation comes in. Mommy, children are coming to school hungry. All right, nothing is wrong with that. Mommy can't afford it. But we don't know. So a child is being told by her parent, when the others are eating, you just excuse yourself. Tell him that you know, tell him that you've had food already. We can't remedy the problem if we don't know what is happening. And just like the new system with the bus coming in and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Parents have expressed that, the children being absent from the classroom, they don't have any lunch money, they don't have any fear. And so you create a solution to the problem. So we
Yeah.
can't fix the problem if we're not identifying and speaking about it. You have the parents as well. I remember when I was going to school, there was this particular student. She would curse bad words left, right, center.
Mm-hmm.
And that's you're going to be punished every time you do it. But then you bring in the mother and the father, you're having a discussion, and then you're like, oh, this behavior is learned. This behavior. How can we be telling them this?
Mm-hmm.
And then the environment is like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
So,
you see now where we have to partner.
mm-hmm.
I am doing my part, you have to help me and do your part. A
So
lot of parents would say that, we are saying, we need you to do your part and whatever. Teachers are saying that. But and this is the truth. Some parents cannot help children with homework because of their academic level. They just cannot. But that's not the only way to help them. I'll say, I am teaching something, the child isn't getting it. That's fine. Here's where you come in. You can't help the child with the quadratic formula. That's fine. But you can ensure that when the child goes on the YouTube, they are looking at it. You don't have to do it, There are so many persons on YouTube doing it better than I am doing it so concise, doing it so clearer.
mm-hmm.
And sure, when they are going on the TikTok, there's this gentleman currently that I'm so fascinated with on TikTok. He's like this ghetto teacher because he doesn't really teach in a classroom, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't think he has a teaching degree or a math degree. But
Wow.
he's teaching, and I'm like, this is TikTok where you have everything else but the content is there too. Once again, simplified. TikTok being one of the largest search engines.
Mm-hmm.
Then, as a parent, you perhaps will have to seek extra help. Perhaps John down the corner knows a little mathematics, so you're looking at a little extra class there.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps you have to send the child to extra class, and that is just the reality. You also have to ensure when your child comes in, you get homework. There has to be time allotted for homework. So they would have to just sit and decide not to do anything in that time if they really don't want to do homework. But you have to ensure that the time is allotted for that.
So
You
let's
also
look
have
at let's hold that thought and let's look at some of the things that you said already that we have to address. Because earlier on you mentioned that it has to be school and community partnership and also looking at the larger societal factors as well. And so you mentioned earlier on that, say, for example, a student, parents as a, the parents as a habit could be a single mom, or
yes,
a
yes.
single dad, and they're trying their child, we know that it's a big deal passing your exam in Jamaica and being placed at the school. And so the mom may say, or the dad may say, okay, when they start eating, leave the room. Can you fault the child for that?
Oh no, we cannot. You know.
Right. So here's another part. So it's not, I'm gonna push back a bit and say maybe it's not so much the parents because that's the best they can do and they are trying. And we know that Jamaicans tend to be proud when it comes to those kind of situations. So how about the school social worker or the school resource personnel kind of poll parents on those things? Or not so much take it to the student because the students may be embarrassed by that, but talk to the parents and say, here, we have a food pantry. And you can come this versus having the student self-identified. Wouldn't it be better for the school itself to create the resource so that it limits the one-to-one identification and say, here's a food pantry. If there's any student who is in need of such, you can come and get this. Versus the parents have to come and explain this is what's happening to me, or the child have to come and say this is that. Because it's not going to be easy to develop that type of trust in that setting. What do you think?
All right, Miss. I like the fact that you touched on parents being proud. All that you have said, they are present in the schools already.
Okay.
There's a breakfast feeding program.
Okay.
So at my son's school, they started the breakfast program this year.
Hmm.
You at Westwood High School, we have companies like Confidence, that's a sanitary napkin. So they have donated large amount of
Yeah.
sanitary napkins stored one place. It's at the guidance council. The guidance council is able to assist with the lunch money, all other things. We have welfare. And a lot of times when students are given things, especially for school fee and those things, they don't even know. The
Hmm.
girls don't even know. But I say to you, you see that proud thing?
Yes.
All right, let me give you an example. And I'm not going to talk about something tangible. I'm going to talk about extra lessons.
Right.
We noticed that there are few girls that something must be done.
Hmm.
And so for English and mathematics, there were some, we call them remedial classes.
Hmm.
We don't say that to the students, but they are remedial classes. And of course, we as teachers, we're supposed to, identify the girls who are supposed to be in them. Let us talk for math. Say math had 30 persons for grade 11 and 10.
Hmm.
I was one of them who volunteered. Now, notice, I didn't say pay, you were paid,
Right.
volunteered to teach. The students, we spoke to the parents,
Hmm.
students spoke to the students, told them what time to come, and this was during school hours. Told them what time to come, whatever. Not all students showed up, miss. Not all.
Because
And so much so, the ones who really needed the help, and I'm going to tell you, I remember when I was doing the class because I do consider myself a good teacher as it relates to mathematics. I had girls who did not need the class at all. And they came and they're like, Miss, can you let us in? And
Mhm.
so I said yes on the condition. So the ones who were there wouldn't feel any way, meaning anybody who comes in randomly wouldn't just label these girls and say that these girls
Right.
are, because it's a mixture now, it's just a class.
Yeah.
And some of the ones who really needed it, and I can speak for English this year, some of the girls who really needed it, I kept hearing it in staff meeting. These girls are not showing up. These girls are not showing up. These girls are not showing up. So the pride now is not just coming from parents, it's coming from students. And I'm talking something that you cannot even touch because
Hmm.
the programs are there. I'll say Westwood High School, it was donated by I think a past person, I'm not even sure. There is this little box, this little
Key.
shelf. It's called Give
Mhm.
a Little,
Oh,
something
okay.
about put a little, give a little. So you
Hmm.
put random things in and you take out things. So
Okay.
anybody can put in anything, anybody can take out anything. It's for anybody. You can give and you can take out. You can give and you can take out. That is at my school and it has been working. You
Okay.
give so it's not even for anybody specific to say, do you it's only persons who are in need come and take out something. No. So the breakfast feeding programs are there. The programs are there for extra lessons. When you tell a parent that, I think that John needs extra lessons, the
Hmm.
first thing the parent want to tell you is teacher not teaching them properly in class, why you want to come and offer them extra lessons? Because we don't want to face the reality that
Hmm.
perhaps my child needs a little bit more time
Right.
than the rest.
So,
Even when you have the results mm, right in your face, you don't want to face the reality. And I think we have to continue. That is why PTA is important.
mhm,
Sensitize the the parents, let them understand that sometimes being proud isn't a wonderful thing at all.
mhm.
And behavior is learned. And so
So
that comes
then
down.
it seems then, and I know I'm pushing it, I hear you, and it's one point well stated and countered based on what I was asking. But could we then, because I've heard this before, I've talked to, actually, I talked to this young man recently, and he's a content creator. He's doing all sorts of things. He's running for some office I think it's in Hanover, East Hanover. And he said he used the same term as bad parenting. And I said, is there a way then that you could reach out specific to those parents without the students and because if these parents are behaving that way and it's the students are learning it, then it's possible that you have to reach the parents first before you can see results with the students. I know it's probably not easy to get all parents, together because they're scattered, they're fragmented, but if you can clearly see a pattern, then you can trace that pattern and formulate solutions around it so that, by the time you get to the root of it, then you can see some results at the other end. What do you think?
Yes, miss, to all problems, there are solutions. I stand on that. I think when it comes on to the parents,
Mhm.
they can be reached. We have to, they say meet people where they are.
Yes,
I think, yes, I think we have to. Because not all the parents have degrees. Not all the parents finished high school, and
yes,
some of them have. And, in terms of being emotionally intelligent, not a lot of us are. But we have to meet people where they are and not leave them there. So that
right.
is why I think the PTA, other than just meeting, every because even too, some persons don't come to the PT not because they don't want to, but because of work they can't take off. There are so many factors.
Mm-hmm.
So you work around stuff like that. This month you have a face-to-face, next month you have an online, so you can get anybody everywhere. So
Mm-hmm.
solutions are there. But one of the things for the parents, they say encouragement sweetens labor. I think incentives for the parents.
For
And I've seen a
example,
few schools.
what
I've
would
seen a
you?
few schools. I'm going to expound, Miss.
Okay.
I've seen
Mhm.
a few schools. My sister's school, St. Hilda's, and I've seen it. And York Castle. I remember my mother when my brother was going to York Castle. She They would invite her. And I'm not talking parents month when they treat you one time. They treated the parents. They visited other parents. So, this person is sick, that kind of a thing. They visited persons.
Mhm.
They have award ceremonies, and I'm not talking a one-off. I mean, like my mommy would get a lot of certificates all the time.
Mhm.
And sometimes too, PTA can be held on WhatsApp.
Okay.
PTA can be held on WhatsApp. So the face-to-face is important, the human aspect, but meeting persons where they are. And persons within the school, not just teachers, guidance counselors. We don't have social workers. We call them guidance counselors. The social workers will come in when it's time, when something has drastically happened, or,
And the social
it's a
workers
court case.
are employed by the school or by the government?
Min by the government.
Mhm.
So when you have like parents who are fighting over a child and those kind of a things, or it's at the court, you'll see them.
Mhm.
Something involved at court, you'll see them. But parents, you have to have small groups within the PTA. So you have
Okay. Okay.
support groups. So we're then utilizing everybody, the skills that persons have. So within those small groups, you have resources I don't.
Mhm.
You have talent. When I say talent, I mean You have a particular skill. Let me say skill because we all have talent. You have
Right.
a particular skill. So then we are now in groups where everybody plays a particular role, everybody helping the other. And
Mhm.
so the whole PTA not know your business.
Okay.
The whole school not know your business.
So what about the dynamics with between teachers and administrators? I know you talk about teacher-teacher relationship, that's very supportive environment.
Lack of communication.
Mhm. How big is the administrative staff? Is it like a large team
Um,
or just a few?
at my school, we have about 50 teachers. Admin would be about 20.
Okay. So it's a
Yes,
lot, well, that's a lot of workers, 70 plus or more, a lot more in terms of the other ancillary staffs and so on, right?
yes, miss.
Because if you're talking about dorming, then you'd have people have to be there 24 hours to make sure that
Yes, miss.
the children are okay. Yes?
Yes, yes. So the staffing is big. Teacher and admin. Most times our biggest problem, lack of communication.
Okay.
Um, sometimes, and I will excuse certain things because sometimes things happen and you know you're supposed to disseminate information
Mhm.
and it slips, that kind of a thing. But lack of communication is one. Um,
But when you
there,
do get information, there's still a pathway to get some clarification and explanation. It's not like you're shut out from kind of having
so
understand.
we have briefings.
Okay.
We have briefings that will involve the information that comes from admin, so it can come to the staff.
Mhm.
Sometimes, once again, it comes late, but we get it. We get the explanation. We'll hear it at staff meeting as well. We do have a teacher who is on the board. So the board comprises of a lot of persons. So there's somebody who represents the students, there's somebody who represents the teachers on the board. So we will get the information at staff meeting.
Mhm.
We have a WhatsApp group for the academic staff. So there are information that will come from admin that will be passed to us. But
Mhm.
sometimes, as I said, it is lack of communication. The information comes late sometimes. Sometimes we have to demand answers.
Mhm.
So something is said and it's just loosely said, but then we have to demand answers. It's a work in progress. It's getting better.
Okay, good. That sounds positive, optimistic, because I mean,
Yes, it's a work in
there's
progress because we
always
have voiced the lack
something.
of communication before.
Yes. So I know you mentioned the shortage of teachers, and they're trying their best. The ministry is trying their best to get teachers short, accelerated to the classroom. I'm sure they're not sacrificing any of the curriculum aspect because, as I said, you have to do summers. Maybe some other programs don't have to do summers, I'm thinking. But what do you think about this number, the large number of teachers that are actually Jamaican teachers employed overseas? So here's what always bother me when I hear this. We will talk so much crap about our Jamaican students that they are this and they're that and when you come, say, to the US or you go to England, I cannot tell you the crap of student that these same teachers will come across. When I'm talking about disrespect, I'm talking about the lowest form of disrespect. So how is it that they find the Jamaican students challenging when we know that there's a different dynamics between teachers and students there where you can talk to students a certain way and get results in these foreign countries, you cannot. You're lucky if you can get a word in. You're one, possibly losing your license and being shipped back to Jamaica. How do these teachers kind of justify leaving Jamaica to teach in these environment, knowing the level of disrespect that they're faced, and even trying to do a comparison between those students and Jamaican, which I find it really bothersome, to be honest. I find it very bothering. What do you have?
I get that, Miss. I'll explain. Just to point out, I know quite a few persons who
Mhm.
have migrated, and I personally I've said that if I'm going to migrate, it's not going to be to teach. Um, I don't mind migrating, but I will not migrate to teach.
Mhm.
My dearest friend, she left last year. No, and she has shared. I have heard it. She said she would say, Todd, if you did think the problem no more, we have a problem.
Uh-huh.
Those are not problems.
All right.
And then even not just the students, just the whole approach to teaching.
Yes.
And perhaps it's a little bit more work over there than over here.
Mhm.
And the things that you may get away with over here, you're not getting over there. But let me say, I said it before, Miss. Bad to bad, I said it before to justify that. Encouragement sweetens labor. And that's it. We don't mind we mind it over here because we're not compensated enough. And let me explain that, Miss. It's not even just monetary compensation.
Mhm.
It's the whole thing about blaming teachers. No, why instead of blaming teachers, let us look at the real problems and attack it from all angles.
Mhm.
But that's not being done. The government blames us, the school blames us, the parents blame us, society blames us.
You're
And
talking Jamaica, right?
in Jamaica.
So,
And
Kimberly, there cannot be any comparison to what I know for sure happens overseas. The monetary compensation cannot justify being called the N word, being spit at, experiencing racism, not just
it's
from
it's
students,
not
but
just notice.
from teacher to teacher, admin to, because not because they hire you mean that they respect you.
Yes, miss, I know. So the
So,
compensation I'm talking about is not just the monetary. Here's the thing. It's a little bit, it plays a little bit on culture and how we are cultured. So one thing, we were cultured to think that foreign is better. That's the first thing. We
right.
were cultured that way.
Mhm.
So you're at foreign, whether US, Canada, UK, you're at foreign. So
Yeah.
clearly you're better off. One, and I'm just telling you the
Yes.
culture
Mhm.
mindset. Two, the cost of living,
Okay.
way better. Three, the crime rate. You're less likely to die over there of crime than over here.
Oh,
So
Kimberly, where do you get that?
I'm telling you, miss, I'm telling you, when you look at Jamaica's crime rate, did you know that we are on the list? I think it was in 20. I don't want to misquote the year. We were number seven ranked in the world for being the murderous country. And we are very small, miss. It's not even the fact that the numbers, is when you look at the ratio of the size of the country to what is happening.
Okay.
So when you look at safety, you can leave your doors open over there. You can't leave it over here open, miss. You have to put on you have to build a house and grill it up, camera security,
Uh,
everything. You think when persons are delivering packages to America and they just put
I
it at
have
your
a
door,
couple
that cannot
questions for
happen at
you.
Jamaica, miss.
I have a couple questions for you. Okay, so there may be some point at a very minimal level that I can agree with, but there are other points that I'm going to push back on. How many mass shootings in school shootings of Jamaica have in the last 10 years?
Not mass
Zero.
shooting.
Zero.
Zero.
Exact.
That's true.
Ex-
That's true.
How
That's
many,
true.
and you may not know this, and I cannot keep up myself, but I'm going to encourage us to look at the number of mass shootings, for example, in the US, school shootings in the US. I'm just gonna type it in for our own mass school shootings in the US for the last 10 years. I'm just gonna look it up. 19,000 people have been shot and wounded in mass shooting since 2022. That's not even 10 years. I hear you. I
Numbers.
hear you.
But though we have no mass shootings, here's what I'm saying. In schools, and when you look at a country, and when you look at the US with the many states, very large scale. That's very in terms of what Jamaica's size is compared to one of the states, we're very, very small.
And
So though we have no mass shootings,
let me give you the date, the
crime is
source of
knocking
this.
knocking at our doors.
This is CNN reporting this, and it's 180 school shootings um, within a year. Within, no, I'm sorry, 180 school, I mean, they're talking incidents now, not people, incidents, 180 within that period. And the number that I gave you of the amount of people that died, 19,000. Okay? So I hear what you're saying. I
But when
understand.
you look at 19,000 to the population, so
Yes, I
19,000 is a
understand.
large number.
But
I,
what if you
I
look
get
at
you.
the
But when
frequency and the ratio of the possibility of it happening, um, the psychological. I know we're cultured to believe otherwise. It's not easy, we still can't convince people that the US, that the US streets are not paved with gold and you can just pick up money off the street or something of the sort. But the psychological pain that may be associated with, not that I'm convinced, is we're not trying to convince anyone not to take opportunities wherever. It's a free world, and our borders are globalization is occurring where borders are getting narrower and narrower, where you can teach. You can even stay in Jamaica and teach online, as I think you mentioned
yes,
that. However, we have to be careful of what data we're using to justify the brain drain in Jamaica, why we're leaving. It should not be the crime rate. It should not be because you can't leave your door open. And that's a thing of the past. That's a thing of the past. Nobody can leave their doors open nowadays, especially it's not where people are physically coming into your door now. They find ways to stalk you online. So it's a different movements with the tech times and technology that has changed. They've used, your neighbors can simply put up a camera on your door and you have no idea that they're watching you. Do you understand? So it's not where somebody's busting down doors as much anymore. It's where there's a different approach to criminal behavior, psychological manipulation, and causing emotional breakdown. So if you're getting compensated, say for example, if you calculate your pay in Jamaica, and you're saying in comparison, a Jamaican teacher would leave and start teaching sixth grade, seventh grade, and making 70, 80,000 a year, for example, right? US. And when you translate that to Jamaica, that's a lot of money, right? But is the person being honest? And I'm yet to talk to someone online like you that is willing to come and share their experiences. They don't want to do it. One, they're afraid that they're going to lose their contract. Two, they're afraid that people are going to look at them and say, then why did you do that in the
yeah,
first?
you left for better, but it's not so good.
Exactly. So I've talked to people behind the scene and they will tell me, but then they're not willing to come on and share because they just,
I had a conversation with my friend about 3 days ago. My very good friend, one who she
yeah.
taught in Jamaica and then she migrated as well. And she was saying, whose salary was, well, is. And I was telling her, and she's saying, it's what we're getting is just a little more. Because it still comes back down to expense. She said she still have pay bills, she still have to do this, she still have a whole lot going out.
Mhm.
A whole lot is going out, and the little extra, she's thinking that perhaps if she was here and doing extra classes
Mhm.
and charging a particular rate and have a X amount of students, then it would be the same thing.
Mhm.
I depending on depending on where you are,
Hmm.
it's really good. And it also depends on the perks that they offer. Some of them offer free housing. So,
Yes.
you have more money to spend, that kind of a thing.
Hmm.
But as I told you, the one my friend who left last year, she said the teaching experience, she's writing more because they are more technologically advanced, and so everything has to be projected, everything this, that, and she has to be up preparing, and she's saying perhaps it would only happen in her first year because it's whatever, whatever.
Hmm.
She has shared the disrespect. She has shared, and she said, she's talking, they're not listening, and that could not happen at a Westwood High School. You
Right.
could not be talking, and
Yes.
you are demanding the girl's attention, and you have your strategies, so you
Uh-huh.
know what to do, and it works. So you are doing that, and then now here you have a whole lot of children, and it's not where
Nobody,
it's like you're
and
invisible in the
you
classroom.
cannot say anything because if you do, there are parents who sometimes, not all, but some parents even attach listening devices to their kids. And then they said that you're picking on their child. You cannot call children out. Not like in Jamaica where you can say, if you not behave yourself, you see, or whatever. You can't
Yes,
do
miss.
that because then they call it a threat.
And then it's like everything is the smallest of
Exactly.
small,
So
the
you
smallest of
are
the.
muzzled. You are muzzled for that $80,000. So you're selling your soul for that 80, and psychologically it will damage you.
And I think too, as it's just how we are cultured. Foreign is better. It
Well, we
is
have
just how we're
we
cultured.
need civic education from the Ministry of Education. I
Oh
know
no, they
some of my
I like they I have been lobbying for that. Because I know my school, they're doing the civics.
yeah.
Um, and I think one, civics should be taught in school, every
Yeah,
school, and two, there should be a subject called culture for the
of
Jamaicans
course.
persons. There should be. But a lot of them, and that is why I've said I'm not going to migrate and teach because one, I love to laugh. I am sorry, I love to laugh. And my methods of teaching, even at my school, sometimes are perhaps considered, how do I say it? Different. I'm going to use the word different, and not a lot of persons will agree with what I do.
Mm-hmm.
So, one, I teach in English. When I'm explaining concepts, I'm in the English. But then my classroom also has room for patois because I am a lover of it.
Exactly. Because you
I
interact.
am a lover of
Yeah.
it. And I have teachers who will disagree with me speaking the patois.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'll tell and my students too, they can't even speak to me in patois, because I say you have to master English first. Because that's what you write in, that's what you communicate in with on the paper. So you have to master that. When you're ready to put patois on the paper, you have to put it in quotation marks. So master the English. And then there are times when they can speak to me in patois and it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But for some teachers, that is a no-no. Creole is a no-no. So
Right.
my method, and it's because I love patois, and that is true to me. I love storytelling.
Right.
I really do love storytelling. And when I take my children outside, when certain things that I do are not the conventional way of doing things, I feel like if I'm at foreign, the good old foreign, I won't be allowed that. I won't be allowed the creativity that I have. And so if I'm going to migrate, it won't be to teach. I will go for any other reason, but I'm not going to teach because then, and I am one who, if I believe that this makes sense, I'm going to defend myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I know how to defend myself without being rude. I was taught that very well, to speak up, speak loudly, boldly, just don't be disrespectful. I know how to do that. But even my friend, she's saying that this is how we normally teach this. This is how they want me to teach it. And
Mm-hmm.
I said to her that this is an easier, way, especially because the students are not grasping. And she said, no, HOD said this is how it is to be done. And this is how you come sit, this is what you're going to come do. There's no room for her to be creative, which when we are here in the Jamaican classroom, we have to rely on creativity to hold these students, to,
So,
to,
so here,
to teach them the hard maths and let them understand. We have to rely
so
on
one
creativity.
thing I'm going to say, yes, there is creativity in I would say any classroom that you could, there's creativity is encouraged. My point about is it dynamics, the interaction. Once students are learning, yes, some informal ways may have to be approved by administrators, which I'm thinking that's what you're saying. You just, as long as you're teaching, some creative ways may have to be approved because then if you step outside the formal curriculum, then how do you grade this rigor? How do you account for this? And those kind of things that cannot be quantified then in that sense. The creativity is there. It's the dynamics. As you said, the English language. We know our translation. We could think in part or translate differently in English. Our body language, our gesticulation, our enunciation. Everything is culture to our Jamaican, which is for any group, I would say. But if I'm going back to the point of the financial compensation, if that's what you're gonna give up, that freedom where you can leave your classroom for the summer and relax and not thinking and dreading, do I have a job? Are they going to sign my contract? Who is going to complain about me at the end of the day? Is this student record me? Did I say something where you have to be tippy-toeing? How can anyone live that way? So there's if you actually just Google Jamaican teachers, there's some experiences. They don't have a choice over how their stories are shared here. Once they do something wrong, it's public news in a sense. There was a recent story, I believe, last year where a teacher, because she's teaching, she left her child at home. She's on a contract, one of those contract, and she left her child at home to go teach. And somebody found out, and they reported her. So she did not only lose her teaching contract, but now she was arrested for child neglect. Maybe if she was in Jamaica and somebody saw that, it would have been a different outcome, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
It would not be seen as child. It is understandable that sometimes,
How old
neighbors,
was the child, miss?
right. And so these are some of the things that are happening. So it is unfair for some Jamaicans to leave their jobs in a way and say, again, I'm going to go back to, you can do whatever you want, but try not to justify it based on, oh, this is not happening in my country. This is not happening. This is not happening. It's difficult. It is so difficult. I've talked people off the ledge, but they're looking at the money.
And I'll say to you, miss, I'll say to you, if it's one thing I was taught by my mother and I demanded from my students is respect. I cannot, you see, the disrespect.
Mm-hmm.
My students, I'll say to my students, I say, I have that. You see that one rule? That one rule. We will laugh together, but don't cross that line.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking, even at a school where you have well-mannered children and you have the ones that, they're crossing the line. I'm thinking, I'm in a classroom and everybody's being disrespectful. How do I function? And then
Exactly.
my upbringing
Mm-hmm.
and how I should approach disrespect. And then it's not even like, okay, you disrespected me, we work this out, we move on. If it's going to be a constant thing,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm being told, well, listen, you have to go in there and teach. I have left a class, and this is an experience. I was teaching a class, and a child was being rude, and I decided to handle the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to her, darling, very calm, I said, darling, we cannot do this. We cannot do this today. Today is not the day because we just cannot do this. She decided to get very loud. She was being rude. And I said, all right, darling, since I decided that we cannot do this, it's either you leave the classroom or I leave the classroom. And if you leave the classroom, I am in trouble because the
Mm-hmm.
ministry says you can't run out the children. So I
Yeah.
am going to leave. Calmly like that, I left the classroom. No uproar, no nothing, because you don't want to feed into anything.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine now. I am going to have to leave the classroom every day
Uh-huh.
because it's constant.
Mm-hmm.
And two, because of the dynamics, you're not, because I've learned it is like a little backward kind of a thinking. I've learned when I just started teaching, I got some girls who were physically bigger than me. They were the bad girls. They at that time they were streaming girls. So there's a direct correlation between not having good grades and being bad at school. So I had I had those girls, and I was just started teaching grade 11 students, and I'm like, I needed a strategy. I realized that when you see children as being bad sometimes, they're
Mhm.
not bad enough. They're just misunderstood.
Yes.
And so I decided that is either you are an enemy or you are a friend. And if you are an enemy, for the entire time I'm teaching you, you're not going to learn anything because we're enemies and you're not learning nothing from an enemy.
Right.
And so you have to form relationships, healthy relationships with these children. And
Mhm.
I don't and I can say that one of the things that make me separate and apart from other teachers is like this teacher thing, you're mothers to these children.
It
And
is.
so you have to form healthy relationships with these students. So
Yeah.
it's not a warfare. Because once you declare war, they have to win. So you're going to always be in problems with them. When I go over to UK, you can't. I have had children, and I said, children, remember, you can't touch me because if you touch me, they say they want to run and come cry on the shoulder. I was coming down the staff room step. A girl came to me, and I didn't even. By the time I said, Miss, what is going on, dear?
He's on
She,
you.
she's crying on my shoulder,
Hmm.
and that for me, ministry say you're not supposed to do that. But I can't push her off. I have to embrace her.
Hmm.
Sometimes I only need a little hug. Now, in that system, you can't do that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Especially if you are male, because we have double standards sometimes. If she had done it to a male, it
Yeah.
would be different,
Yeah. Hmm.
But I they like to come and touch you and those kind of a things. That won't happen over there, So I'm
Hmm.
going to have to become somebody different, and
Yes,
it
you
part
have.
be different good. It's going to be different
Yes.
part.
The dynamics, we're talking a lot about dynamics, and so the dynamics is going to be different. And I'm not saying we can't be flexible. That's a part of being a teacher, to be adaptable, to teach kids to be adaptable and flexible.
Yes,
So, but at the same time, maintaining boundaries. We can learn all the rules in different settings.
yes, yes.
But when we're talking, and yes, maybe some of what we're saying is biased because we're Jamaicans and we want the best for our country. But there's a brain drain that is
There
happening,
is.
and the justification is not fair enough.
And
And
two,
and what you're hearing, some of what you're hearing, people are not being honest. And whether or not it's the teacher setting, it could be just people migrating for whatever reasons, reasons. It could be just, I want to live in a different country. But if it's going to be justified about crime and violence, I'm going to tell you, you will not get away from crime and violence in any part of the globe.
that is true. That is true, miss.
In
That
any
is
part of
true.
the globe. And so we have to be careful always thinking that, Jamaica, and we have to know who, recently, for example, the US Embassy put Jamaica was on the list, the US Embassy as a place that, travel alert, travel alert.
Yes, miss.
And people were so upset and said, wait a minute, Jamaica needs to put the US on their travel list as a travel alert because do
It's
you
it's
know what is
culture. We
happening?
are culture to think foreign.
Exactly. So there's a lot that is going on that is so physically and psychological damage in other countries, but yet we're not seeing it. We just tend to think that our country is the worst, and that's why, So yeah, it's interesting. But I surely do appreciate your insight into what you do, and I feel your passion. I hear your passion for teaching, and the girls at Westwood are so lucky to have you. You are very high spirited, and I say I encourage people to look at your Instagram page because there's some interesting stuff that you put on there. Any last word for us? Because I know we've been at this for a little while. What do you get from this? And do you have any questions specific to our conversation?
Um,
What do you get from this conversation? What are you walking away with?
what I'm there's a lot of work to be done. Mm. The work never stops.
Yes.
Because sometimes we do think we know, but we don't know,
Yes. Yeah.
really and truly.
Hmm.
And so the work has to be done, even the thing you mentioned about, not involving children. So you're helping the children, but they don't have to be a part of it to say
Hmm.
that because it can damage them, and we understand that.
Damage them. Yeah.
So we can take different approaches. Some we haven't found them as yet, but they're still out there and we need to look for them.
Yeah.
Also, no one no better than Yard. You hear me tell you, miss? No one no better than Yard. And I've heard the stories from a lot of persons,
Yeah.
and I've known a lot of persons, and I've said it too. And I say this loosely. But a lot of the persons who are leaving perhaps need to leave
Hmm.
the system because they're not doing much justice.
Okay.
That's one.
Hmm.
But I'll say to you that if the ones who are good at what they're doing here are
Hmm.
leaving, we're in trouble.
Right. And
We're
if
in
you're
trouble.
talking about a
We're
40,
not, it's not
40.
about building the nation anymore. We're
Mhm.
just thinking selfishly, and I don't think that that's fair as a human being. You
Let
build,
me, I'm
yes,
sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
you have to build. You're here to add to, and whatever is wrong, make right.
Hmm.
And being born in Jamaica, and you see the many challenges that are there. I hear a lot of persons complaining about, the relationship they had with their teachers, how teachers said certain things, did certain things, and I am appalled because one, I've experienced it for a short while, but majority of my time I've had wonderful teachers. And so I want to change the narrative, one, for
Hmm.
teachers, and two, math education, the stigma that is attached to it, it being hard and you can't learn it and whatever, whatever. So I want to change that. So I think
Yeah.
we must be change makers in this world.
Yes, definitely. And math teachers are not easy to come by. So I hope they cherish you to keep you there. Not a lot of you have some teachers who are, do general subjects where they teach a little of everything.
Yes,
They
miss.
say, I dread the math. They will say they dread the math because that's not their strength areas. But it's been such an insightful conversation, and I hope somebody watching this, and if you have a friend who is teaching overseas and they want to come and just talk, they don't have to say where they're teaching if they're
Yes,
afraid
miss.
of losing their position, but willing to share on online so it's inspire others to understand that, as you said, no one better than Yad, because and make a difference in the lives of students there, because it is so unfair that we're losing teachers in this kind of way. And 40 students to one. Come on. In math, when, as you said, there's so much different levels of learning, and it's hard to attend to all of that. So the education minister need to be aware of this and try to do everything possible to hang on to their teachers, right?
Yes, miss.
All right. Thank you so
Same
much,
to you. I
Kimberly.
have a
It's been fun.
question.
Sure.
The topic overall,
Hmm.
why embark upon this research?
Well, the
What
dynamics.
triggered this?
Well, I want you to think about
Are
this.
you in education or is it?
Well, my goal is to teach and impart information. And so I want you to think about the topic in terms of dynamics. Everything that you do in the education, in the classroom, has to do with dynamics. And you mentioned
Yes.
there's different ways of reaching students. And the student, you said sometimes the students see you as a parent, as a mom, as a mother, right? And that's another dynamic. So it's not just teacher, student. Sometimes they see you in the maternal role or the
Yeah.
paternal role. And we're interested in that. People in the diaspora are interested in understanding that. And even for students themselves, they're not just going through a process. They need to understand how they behave in the classroom, right?
Yes,
So
miss.
the topic is applicable to just about anybody who wants to understand students. And so, and as for the our nonprofit support the adolescent youth, We provide as much information to parents and families so they can understand that maybe here's something. Maybe taking your kid out of school in Jamaica, if they're migrating here, some parents have the decision to make. Should I let my kid finish their last year in school in Jamaica versus, and then they can start college in the US, or take them out and put them to high school in? I would say let them stay in Jamaica and finish because I'm telling
Last story. My niece,
another one.
when my niece was in primary school around grade 4, her dad is in the US. And he said, he's ready for her to come.
Right,
And
right.
I'm saying, no. I'm her aunt, but we grow like sisters.
Mhm.
And I'm saying no. And I said to the mom, I said, listen to me. You see, certain values and certain principles, it doesn't matter what anyone wants to say. Jamaica instills certain things
Yes.
within you.
Hmm.
And I said to her, let her, she not even just primary school, she has to go to high school.
Hmm.
College she can do over there. But
Yes.
high school, she has to do high school because the leadership
Hmm.
skills that you learn, the sisterhood, how to interact with others,
Dynamic.
and Jamaica has certain values and principles.
Hmm.
So we are accustomed to saying yes, miss, no, miss. You go
Exactly.
over there, you're talking to children, and they're like, yeah, no, no, yeah.
Or F you. Yeah.
Ah, and
I'm
and then
saying
for
it
them that
for
is
you.
for them
Yes.
that is okay. That
Yeah.
is that's their normal.
Yes.
When you hear that from a child, everybody, it's you're
Yes.
part of people. You are supposed to say good morning. You don't have to like people to be courteous.
Exactly.
Those kind of a things. And I said to her, yeah, she has to get it over here.
Hmm.
Plus, I do believe that our curriculum
Hmm.
is better.
It's much better. But
Very much better.
unfortunately, this is what a lot of parents are finding out, or family members, that when they do send their kid here, because of the accent, the accentuated English, I don't know if you know that sometimes they're placed 1 year behind. Oh, yes.
Yes, yes,
Yes, which is unfair. Okay. And so that can create a challenge. And even for the learning side, even for the students that you're thinking is on the far left, they may end up being on the far right here in the US, and then still struggle because you're put with a group now that are way down under in a
wait. Yes, miss, it's true. It's true.
so those
It's
are some
true.
of the challenges that we're experiencing. And so we have to be careful how we look at our education system. And I don't want you to believe that sometimes it's not this information, it's not that this information, some of this information is already known. It's through experience and learning. Like, wait a minute, you figure it out. Like, wait a minute. When you
Yes,
look at the data and the comparison based on the experiences, the behavior, and all the things that are coming out, you realize that Jamaican education system is something to be cherished, especially in terms of the leadership and the respect that you mentioned. All right.
yes, miss.
Okay, so we have to go. I know because we don't want to watch all of this. So thank you so much, Kimberly, and keep in touch. Send anyone your my way who wants to talk about education and dynamics, and we will definitely have them on. Okay?
Okay, no problem. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you again.